history, man has waged war, conquered and enslaved countless cultures and peoples around the world. The world seems to some to have no direction, that there is a sense of accident about history in the cycle of world events. Historical figures such as Hitler, Mussolini, Mao, Stalin and many others seemingly rise to power in a political and philosophical vacuum. At least, that is how our schools present these events. Is this true, or is there a pattern laid in a planned direction? Is there a plan for the current direction of our world? We shall have world government, whether or not we like it. The only question is whether world government will be achieved by conquest or consent. James Warburg, 1950. Bush has had the knowledge and the background and has had the posts. As president, he will be in a better position than anyone else to pull together the people in the country who believe that we are in fact living in a one world and we have to act that way. David Rockefeller, on George H.W. Bush, 1988.
Before us, the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order, a world where the rule of law, not the law of the jungle, governs the conduct of nations. When we are successful, and we will be, we have a real chance at this new world order, an order in which a credible United Nations can use its peacekeeping role to fulfill the promise and vision of the UN's founder.
We're living through exceptionally difficult times. The financial crisis and its dramatic impact on employment and budgets, the climate crisis which threatens our very survival, a period of anxiety, uncertainty and lack of confidence.
At his first press conference as the new president, or the appointee, Mr. Van Rompuy declared that the Copenhagen process would be a step towards the global management of our planet.
Yet these problems can be overcome by a joint effort in and between our countries. 2009 is also the first year of global governance with the establishment of the G20 in the middle of the financial crisis.
Told that when we had a president, we'd see a giant global political figure. The man that would be the political leader for 500 million people. The man that would represent all of us on the world stage. The man whose job was so important that, of course, you're paid more than President Obama. Well, I'm afraid what we got was you.
The climate conference in Copenhagen is another step towards the global management of our planet.
And the question that I want to ask, that we're all going to ask is, who are you? I'd never heard of you. Nobody in Europe had ever heard of you. I would like to ask you, President, who voted for you? And what mechanism? Oh, I know democracy is not popular with you lot. And what mechanism do the peoples of Europe have to remove you?
Talk a little bit about what I have seen on video from you, Lord Monckton, about this. This is the Framework Convention on Climate Change. Explain what this is first.
Right, this is an agreement that was reached many years ago by about 190 countries have now signed up to it. And the idea is that we are screwing up the planet with too much CO2,
right,
and therefore we have to do something about it. Now, what is now coming up at Copenhagen, at what will be the 15th meeting of the states parties to this convention, 190 countries in Copenhagen from December the 7th to the 18th, there will be a conference at which the treaty which you now have in front of you on the desk there will be signed unless you and everybody watching can stop it. And that treaty, among other things, says there's going to be a world governance.
May resolve itself in some type of a global currency crisis. And then if the global currency crisis unfolds, then inevitably you get, I guess, an alignment under a global world government, a new global currency, and a new world order. So we may be moving.
As more and more people become aware of a plan for a world government, anger swells in the heart of many grassroots movements across the globe. Well, this is happening as the elite become more and more overt in their tactics. The elite, including banking families that control many of the world's central banks, such as the Federal Reserve and other banks around the world. This fact was supported by historian Carroll Quigley, who in the 1960s was a Council on Foreign Relations insider. In his book, Tragedy and Hope, he states, "The powers of financial capitalism had another far-reaching aim, nothing less than to create a world system of financial control in private hands, able to dominate the political system of each country and the economy of the world as a whole. This system was to be controlled in a feudalistic fashion by the central banks of the world, acting in concert by secret agreements arrived at in frequent private meetings and conferences. The apex of the system was to be the Bank of International Settlements in Basel, Switzerland, a private bank owned and controlled by the world central banks, which were themselves private corporations." Carroll Quigley, Tragedy and Hope. The 9/11 truth movement has gained momentum enormously as the mounting evidence of the truth of that day comes to light.
It's as close as we can get to the base of the World Trade Center. You can see the firemen assembled here, the police officers, FBI agents, and you can see the two towers. A huge explosion now raining debris on all of us. We better get out of the way!
Shows such as The Alex Jones Show continue to gain in listenership and are fast becoming the new mainstream in America. Many believe that a mass awakening is on the horizon and that the world as we know it is about to change dramatically. Where is it all heading, you may ask? In the direction of truth or into the path of the adversary? Luciferianism is, and continues to be, the ruling class religion since the time of the ancient mystery and fertility religions. It is also the first lie Satan sold to the world through deceiving Eve and then causing rebellion in Adam. The lie that we can become gods. In Luciferianism, God, the Heavenly Father of all redeemed born-again believers in Jesus Christ, is vilified and Lucifer is exalted. These mystery religions have continued today in Freemasonry, Skull and Bones, and through also the Jesuits and the Catholic Church, but it is also in almost every aspect of society, so much so that someone sold into the spiritual blindness offered by the Luciferian philosophy in its many forms will not even notice this happening. On the subject of Luciferianism, Philip D. Collins states the following: Luciferianism is the product of religious engineering, which sociologist William Sims Bainbridge defines as the conscious, systematic, skilled creation of a new religion. In actuality, this is a tradition that even precedes Bainbridge. It has been the practice of Freemasonry for years. It was also the practice of Masonry's religious and philosophical progenitors, the ancient pagan mystery cults. The inner doctrines of the Mesopotamian secret societies provided the theological foundations for the Christian and Judaic heresies, Kabbalism and Gnosticism. All modern Luciferian philosophy finds scientific legitimacy in the Gnostic myth of Darwinism. As evolutionary thought was popularized, variants of Luciferianism were popularized along with it. A historical corollary of this popularization has been the rise of several cults and mass movements, exemplified by the various mystical sects and gurus of the 60s counterculture. The metastasis of Luciferian thinking continues to this very day.
If we go back to the beginning, we will find out that there were two sources of truth. There was the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and there was the tree of life in the garden. The tree of the knowledge of good and evil includes worldly knowledge of what is right and wrong. It's the letter of the law of God, and the dead religion based on compliance to the dead letter of the law. It's man-made compliance to law and man-made changes in outward behavior. It's a focus on self. If we focus on ourself, we can go two directions. We can indulge and become licentious, or we can go the other route, which is a problem in some churches. We can become self-righteous. It also includes a false trust that worldly philosophy and other fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil will expose Satan. It will not expose Satan. Why? Because Satan appears as an angel of light. Remember how much we have placed in the basket as it was passed around? Satan was willing to give Christ the entire world on the mountaintop. How's that for a donation? The fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil will not expose Satan. This is what is called in Scripture the flesh. It leads to death, not to mention also producing in the mind lasciviousness, double-mindedness, and pride in what one knows. It's the goodness of man, and it's very popular. But the other tree in the garden, it included a fear of God, peace, God-centered knowledge, which is relevant to what God is doing, therefore wisdom. It's the spirit of the law, a living faith and a relationship with Yahweh God. Its spirit made changes in the heart. It focuses on Christ, the Spirit, and the Heavenly Father.